Hello. Alright, I'm going to try this again. This is my second attempt at this one. Uh, so, I went out today and I got my, here it is, Atlanta. So, I like the collar. Collar I'm a big fan of. So, the old-fashioned jerseys are, to me, they're simple, they're clean, they're amazing. Um, and this immediately becomes one of my favorites. Saw my ex today. She looks at this. She's like, Atlanta, that's the Thrashers, right? I'm like, nope, the Flames, 1979. And, I wouldn't have seen her, but there was some stuff we had to discuss regarding our son. So we discussed that. And with that set aside, I think I made it happen. There's a Beetlejuice effect that happens if you talk about somebody enough, they appear. So I need to stop the Beetlejuice effect. I got this hat today. This is brand new. And I got this hat today. It's brand new. Now, Detroit doesn't have a secondary logo, so I don't mind that being in the background. Boston has a secondary logo, so there's the bear. Vancouver has a secondary logo that's Johnny Canuck, so they use the whale. But that brings up to, I think it's five different hats now, this design I've got. I remember when this design came out, that was, I want to say 2 years ago. And I told the guy at the sporting goods store, local sporting goods store, I said, I want all of them. It's like, I love that design. It's very simple. It's very clean. I like the one in the background behind the main logo. It looks really sharp. But I've been waiting until the price comes down because it's like 40 bucks for a new hat. And I see that and I'm like, I'm not paying 40 bucks for a new hat. So I wait till they're on sale and then I snag them. Ty Ronning. In NHL, I want to say NHL 15 or 14, Ty Ronning shows up in the game. I'm all happy. I went in and edited him, made him a future franchise player because Cliff Ronning was my favorite Canuck. He really was. When he asked for $1 million a year, and Brian Burke said that he wasn't worth $1 million a year, and then on July 1st, Phoenix gave him $1 million a year, I was so happy for him. I never thought he got the respect in Vancouver he deserved for what he did. And I don't know if it was his size or what it was, but I really had hoped today that they would draft his kid and that Ty would get a chance to be a Canuck someday. Now, Ty Ronning is not a top-notch, top 20, top 30 prospect. I never thought he was. Even in a video game when I'm making the future franchise player, it's just because his dad was my favorite player, and it's kind of fun to see Ty Ronning and see huge value behind his name. But in terms of the draft, the Rangers grabbed him, which would have been fine, other than the fact the Canucks had 2 7th-rounders, and they didn't draft him. Benning isn't necessarily forced to pay any lip service to fans, but it would have been a nice story. Cliffy still lives in Vancouver. Ty plays for the Vancouver Giants. It just seems like it just would have worked. He was projected as a mid-round guy, and he was there until the 7th round, likely because of his size. The weirdest thing I found is that the Penguins and the Sharks proved this year that size is important, but speed's very important. Skill's always important. And yet, in the draft, there were guys getting drafted because they were big. And there's a lot of danger in that. And even one of the commentators, and I don't know which one it was that said that he noticed a lot of guys getting drafted early for size and a lot of guys getting passed on who were really talented because they were shorter. And he said this has come back to bite GMs before. And it has. And it will. Guys dropped into the 2nd, 3rd round today that really shouldn't have because of their size. And it's a strange thing because the NHL is not what it was in the 90s when you just grab a bunch of hulking big guys and that would be your defense. There's more speed and skill involved now. And those guys have a harder time catching up. And, Goodbranson's obviously been my whipping boy since the McCann trade, but Florida parlayed that number 33 pick in part to get rid of Kulikov. and pick up Pisek. So Pisek will take over the Goodbranson spot in the lineup. And Yandel will be their power play guy. I see what Florida's doing, and it's interesting because it is in my opinion, it's much more courageous to win a division and then say, all right, now we need to get better. Because that's when a lot of GMs will stand pat. It takes a lot more courage to look and go, we need to improve this team, than it does when you're at the bottom and you just tear it all apart. The other thing I've found interesting, and I've noticed this with Canuck fans a lot in the offseason. The Canucks finished with 31 wins. And if you go with regulation and overtime wins, so you don't count shootout wins, they had 27. The Maple Leafs had 26. Vancouver is one of the worst teams in the league. And I say that as a fan of the team. I'm not in denial. But there certainly are people who seem to think if you add a couple of pieces, the Canucks aren't one of the worst teams in the league. And they are. And I now understand. I used to laugh at fans in Toronto, Montreal, when their teams are down and out, and they're like, well, we just need to add a couple pieces and we're fine. And it's like, no. And Vancouver needs a complete and total overhaul. And the other thing is, if you pick up a lot of good players, but it's high-end skill. I look at this draft and there's some high-end skill. You know, I'm still smarting over DeBrincat falling all the way to 38th and going to Chicago because there's a lot of high-end skilled players who slipped in the draft this year. And if your team scored 191 goals last year, you probably need more skill. Let's see. I'll go in and find it. Let's see. T. Come on. Come on. Load. Wow. There's some gorgeous girls cheering for Croatia at this game. Anyways, I'm watching Croatia and Portugal right now because I do enjoy soccer. Oh, Wales won. Wow. So the Welsh, that continues for them. That's amazing. NHL teams. I'm just going to go into this because this is what drives me nuts. Is that if you look at fans in Canada, Montreal fans admit we revolve around Carey Price. They admit that. Toronto fans admit rebuild's got to happen. Calgary fans admit rebuild's got to happen and we need goaltending. Edmonton fans, they've been down at the bottom so long they can't, deny it. But Edmonton now has enough star players that I can't see them staying at the bottom. You have Puljujarvi and McDavid alone. But then you add Hall. You still have Nugent Hopkins. Like, you've got pretty damn good team there. Last year, Henrik Sedin scored 55 points in 74 games. Daniel Sedin scored 61 points in 84 games. You will be lucky to get that kind of production out of them for another year. Sven Berchi scored 15 goals in 69 games, had 28 points, was a minus 14. The Sedins, Daniel Sedin was a plus 7, Henrik Sedin was a 0. Bo Horvat was a minus 30, 40 points in 82 games. He had above 50% in the faceoff circle. Henrik Sedin was below 50% in the faceoff circle, and by a lot. Jannik Hansen, 22 goals in 67 games, career high, likely not going to happen again. Radim Verbata, gone. Ben Hutton, 25 points, one of which was a goal in 75 games, minus 21. Alex Burrows, 9 goals in 79 games, 22 points, pretty much done. Alex Edler, 20 points in 52 games, -8. Tanev, 18 points in 69 games. Tanev's game is not an offensive game. I get that. But I'm going to get to a point here. Bartkowski, 18 points in 80 games. He's likely gone. Derek Dorsett, 5 goals in 71 games. Lyndon Vey, 4 goals in 41 games. Emerson Edom, 7 goals in 78 games. I think he had 2 or 3 as a Canuck in 35 games, somewhere around there. Ham Hughes had 13 points in 58 games. Jake Virtanen, 13 points in 55 games, 7 of which were goals. Marcus Granlund had 6 goals in 47 games. Brandon Sutter, injured most of the year, had 5 goals in 20 games. Could have scored 20 if he'd played all year. Eric Goodbranson comes over. He brings 9 points in 64 games with Florida. Zabiza had 8 points in 41 games for the Canucks last year, 2 of which were goals. Alex Biega, 7 points in 51 games. Yannick Weber, 7 points in 45 games. He's gone. Chris Higgins, 3 goals, 4 points in 33 games. And Nikita Triamkin, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points in 13 games. He was a -3, but he hit everything that moved. And he's a pretty good player. Where do the goals come from next year? Yeah, you can put Lucic with the Sedins. The Sedins probably score 65 points. You've got McDavid down there is going to score at least 82 if he plays all year. 82 is the minimum, maybe 90. Calgary with Johnny Hockey, Monahan, Bennett, come on. My problem with, in terms of being a Vancouver fan today, is this. Skill. High-end, top skill. There's none. Bo Horvat's my favorite player in the league. Max, I see him scoring 25 goals next year. Max. 25 goals, 50 points, I'd be happy. There's no high-end skill in Vancouver. And every other team has high-end skill. Every other team, it's there. I just clicked on Calgary. Come on, load. 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 Load, damn it. Oh, they've already got the full schedule for next year in here. Very cool. Geez, I could even project the Canucks standings. That'll really drive fans nuts. But I mean, in Montreal, just off the top of my head, you've got Pacioretty, you've got Gallagher, you've got Subban. Those are 3 guys who are in their prime who are good players. Wait, why did it go there? Why did you go there? I didn't click to go back. Damn you, TSN! Okay, statistics. Clicked on it again. Here we go. Yeah, Goudreau had 78 points in 79 games. You got to think he's going to get better. Monahan had 63 points in 81 games. He's going to go up. Giordano had 56 points, 21 goals in 82 games, and he's considered to have had a down year. Michael Backlund, 47 points in 82 games. He's probably capped out. Joe Colborne had 19 goals, 44 points in 73 games. Dougie Hamilton recovered from a poor start to have 43 points in 82 games. Bennett had 38 points in 77 games. You got to think he's going to hit at least 50 next year. And Frolik, 15 goals in 64 games. Pretty quiet season, and they just added Matt Tkachuk. I'm hoping that this offseason continues to be dynamic and things continue to change. And the high-end skill guys, I don't know. I mean, if Stamkos came to Vancouver, first off, I would call Stamkos and say why. Honestly, I mean, just think about the stats I read out. Where's Stamkos going to want to go? He's going to want to go to a team where he can win, or a team where he can mentor a lot of good young forwards. So Toronto. If he wants to mentor a lot of good young forwards, Toronto. Toronto picked up Tyler Benson in the second round. Benson was considered a first-round lock not that long ago. And Benson is capable. Benson was injured most of the year, ended up with 31 points in 30 games, but didn't sleep very well last night. Anyways, Benson is, potentially a guy who could push for maybe not a roster spot right in training camp, but as early as next year, he could be ready. And he's a center. So congratulations, Toronto. Center is now a spot that you guys have a strength in. And I look at the draft today and I say, okay, there's these teams that are looking at moving up in the standings based on what they've drafted, what they're doing, the motions they're going through. Calgary's back in the playoff hunt next year. I don't know if they're back in the playoffs, but they're in the hunt. Of the three California teams, I think the Kings are most susceptible to falling out based on the way that they performed in the playoffs and based on a lot of the turmoil that's been going on over the last year or so. They rose above a lot of the turmoil, but I think it's starting to take its toll. And if Jonathan Quick is a middling goalie in the NHL, then they're a middling team. The first Stanley Cup that LA won, they won it because of Jonathan Quick. So the Kings of the three California teams, the most likely to fall out. Second would be San Jose, simply for the fact that there is a Stanley Cup hangover. It's a real thing. It happens. And with the age factor for guys like Marleau and Thornton, it could be bad. But again, when fans of teams at the bottom tell me they're not at the bottom, I find it odd. And it's something that happens in certain cities. And at the beginning with Edmonton, you'd hear it with them. I know with Oilers fans, I heard for years, oh, we drafted Nugent Hopkins, we're going to be great now. Oh, Everly was a steal, we're going to be great now. We got Yakupov, we're making the playoffs next year. Eventually, it will happen. And I honestly think that between last year with McDavid and this year with Puljujarvi, who would be a number one draft pick in half the drafts that have happened, I think this is the Oilers' year to get better. And they are getting better. This year's record was not as bad as the year before. They didn't finish last overall. They are making slow steps forward, and that's really all you have to do. Chicago took small steps forward for the first while after they got Kane and Taves. It's not like they just magically became contenders. It took time. And considering that Chiarelli's running the team now instead of the Edmonton Brain Trust that was in there before, Chiarelli's already proven that he can get you a Stanley Cup. When he took over the Bruins, they were a disaster. And then Stanley Cup happened for these guys in 2011. And then they got into cap troubles. But I think Edmonton would be okay with winning a Stanley Cup and having cap problems after that. So, anyways, I love the Atlanta jersey. I'm very proud of the collection I've got. If I had a way to display the collection in a more robust manner, I would. I'm working on it. I'm trying to figure out a structure that can handle the weight of about 60 of these suckers. And believe me, they get heavy fast. So, I guess we'll see. Any other notes? Anything else before I shut this thing down for the day in terms of hockey talk? Not really. I think we're good. But if you're a fan of a Canadian team, your team got better. And as much as I'm giving Canucks fans shit, the Canucks are a better team right now than they were 24 hours ago. It's not my point. at all. I just think that the long-term picture doesn't look as bright right now as fans want to make it out to be. And I get it. You want to pull for the home team, but it's not as bright a picture. And then with Oilers fans, I have to tell them the other way around. Like, no. With Puljujarvi, you guys should be in the playoff hunt. Here we are at halftime of the game. So here's a bunch of really hot chicks in the crowd. They seriously, I think it's soccer games, and this happens at hockey games too. Soccer games, it's just the cameraman. I think just pans the crowd. Hot, zoom in, zoom out, pan around. Hot, zoom in, zoom out. Happens at hockey games too. I still remember to this day being at a friend of mine's house for the 1994 Stanley Cup Final, Game 5. And, no, it wasn't Game 5. It was Game 1. Game 1 of the final between the Rangers and the Canucks. And we were all in our Canucks gear, and she was so excited to see the Canucks, and she had all these cute little nicknames for all the Canuck players. And then they showed a really hot chick in the crowd wearing a Rangers jersey, and I was like, you know, I suddenly want to say, go Rangers, go, or let's go Rangers. And she almost threw me out. She was ready to throw me out of her house because I said that, because it was a really hot chick wearing a Rangers jersey in the crowd. But she was hot, and she was wearing a Rangers jersey, so I was torn because she was hot. And again, it just shows that cameramen, probably the same thing. She's hot. Any other time that I zoom in on a chick like this is going to be considered creepy, but they're a sporting event, and I'm a cameraman, so it's okay. If I do this in public, it's creepy, but it's not, because this is my job. So, anyways, I hope everybody has a wonderful Saturday. I have, according to my sales online, I have sold 5 books for free. I have run on for free right now. I would like to thank people who've bought it, and I hope you enjoy it. And I don't write hockey-related books because I haven't played organized hockey. So even though I played a lot of road hockey and street hockey as a teenager, and I played a lot of floor hockey as well, that doesn't really qualify me to write a book on it. I always took pride in myself. I was a defenseman for the most part, and for me it was always checking. There were 2 things I always kept in mind. 1, the forward does not go around me to the net. I have to stand between him and the net. There's 3 things I have to mind. 2, the goalie has to see the shot if he winds up to shoot. If I'm not going to block it, I have to make sure the goalie sees it. And 3, if I get the ball, or puck, depending on what we were playing with floor hockey, it goes right down the boards. It does not go anywhere near the front of the net. And my teammates, if they don't know what's going down the boards, oh well. I don't care. I am not. And I'd have guys yelling at me from front. I'm right here. Yeah, you're in front of the net. And down the boards it would go. And I'd tell them. I would then run over and tell them and say, I'm not passing to you in front of our net. It's not going to happen. You have to get to the boards. And if they tried arguing with me, I'd say, I am not passing to you in front of the net. It is not going to happen. So when I'm watching an NHL game and I see a player do that and it results in a goal against them, I just want to scream at them. It drives me insane because it's like it's three simple rules as a defenseman when you're a defensive defenseman. And your job is the forward doesn't get to the net around you. The forward doesn't take a shot that you're screening. You don't screen your own goalie. And when you get the puck in your own zone, behind your own net, wherever, you get rid of it. And you get rid of it down the boards. You don't pass it to the center of the ice. Because the other team's just waiting to poach it and bury it in your net. Make you look like an idiot. So yeah, those are very simple rules I live by. And yet I can't very well use that to write a book, can I? Especially science fiction. Science fiction hockey really wouldn't work. So anyways, thanks for watching.